5 minutes past 8 here on Moreton Bay's own radio station, 101.5 FM. It's Thursday morning. This means one thing. It's SportsFeva time for your Thursday morning sporting fix. Peter Swampy Marsh from Quest Newspapers has joined me in the studio. Morning to you, Swamp.
Always a good morning again when it's SportsFeva morning, Matty.
Time to get the wraps out of the way. First up, this time last week, we're going through our US Masters tip. I pushed you for it. I said, I think, who did you tip? It was Rory?
Rory was my winner tip. I tipped Rory to take out the bickies at the end. I said Adam Scott would be the top-placed Aussie at the tournament, and I said if you're looking for a smoky to jump on, look no further than the pink driver-wielding Bubba Watson.
I said, yep, and that's what we said for the value punters out there. Get on board, and just I hope they listen to you and not me. KJ Choi, my tip, didn't make the cut. I'm going terrible, but you were our golf expert. I'm not here to tip golf. That's what we've got you for. That's your A game, and well done to you, Swamp. That was a... the crowd goes wild. No, fantastic, and lived up to all expectations. The Masters, an amazing tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't have been too disappointed if big Louis Westhuizen got up there in the end over Bubba, but it did make it nice that I got the tip. But just, you get those feelings. I think you could probably tell on Thursday morning. I was so excited about the tournament. There's always something special that happens at the Masters, and we got it there with Bubby and Louis going down to the wire there with the 2-hole playoff, and Bubba hitting just an extraordinary shot out of the pine needles, turning at about 30 metres. I heard the analogy, Matty, if you think about that shot, if you were standing in front of your house and you had to hit to a hole behind your house, you'd had to hit around the house to the left. That's the kind of shot that Bubba hit. He turned at 30 metres around to the right, for the lefty, and just extraordinary shot. Magic way to finish the Masters, and fantastic stuff for golf fans.
Couldn't believe what I was seeing when he hit it. It was absolutely an amazing shot, and well done to him. Now, what do we make of the Aussies in the tournament?
Too little, too late. Jason Day was injured his foot in practice, and I didn't expect too much from him. I was actually quite surprised he played the first round, but no surprises when he pulled out there. So disappointing for him after playing so well. Hopefully he can get right for the US Open, which isn't far away. Adam Scott was just too little, too late. He really put himself in a bad way in those first couple of rounds where he was a long way over par, but made a brilliant charge, and of course with an ace. I believe it was on the 16th on the way home there, and it ended up in the top 10, believe it or not, but you can't win the Masters from charging from that fourth round. You've got to be up in that mix come Sunday, and he unfortunately wasn't there and just fell short. Yeah, it makes it tough, and I guess as much as that last round was fantastic from him, it'd leave him a bit disappointed, wouldn't it, to know that, geez, if he could have played a bit more consistently in the 3 rounds prior, it could have been his. Absolutely, and Johnny Sendon perhaps didn't deliver as much as we would have liked him to as well. I don't think he's got, at the moment, got a game to really deliver at the Masters. It's not a tournament you can go in there and sort of counterpunch your way through. You've got to go out there and seize it. And Johnny Sendon's is Mr. Consistency. Goes in there and makes his pars, and will sneak a birdie. But disappointing things, his putter wasn't on as well, which is never good at a big tournament like that.
No, it's all got to come together for those 4 days if you're going to win the big one. But fortunately, another year, another Aussie doesn't win the Masters, but it'll be special when we do win one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be jumping up and down for sure, and it's just consistency. Like you said, Scotty will be kicking himself, but they're up there in the mix, these guys, and Jason Day, had he been fit, would have been there too. So hopefully we won't be too far away with this crop of young stars.
Let's hope so. It's got that real Queensland Sheffield Shield feel, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
We get close. But anyway, fingers crossed. Plenty to get through in the show this morning. We're talking to Steve Brown from the Bribie Island Warriors, also Trad McLean from the Brisbane Broncos about... we'll talk about Benny Teo. He got 2 weeks, and we'll also be talking to him about some of our Moreton Bay stars. We've also got our Over the Moon tipping segment with Shane Moon. You can call and reach his tips shortly to take on Mooney. And also, who's our other guest today, Swamp?
Matty Rafton's coming in to have a quick chat about some special deals going on at Pacific Harbour. More golf, which is always a good thing on SportsFeva for me.
It's absolutely. Time for a quick song. We're back to talk to Steve Brown. 12 minutes past 8 here on 101.5. You listen to SportsFeva with Matthew and Swampy. As promised, time now to talk some Sunshine Coast and Gympie Rugby League. Coach of one of our local sides, Steve Brown's joining us on the line. Morning, Steve.
Morning, boys. How are you?
Very well, thank you, mate. Now, we spoke to you at the start of the year. Things, very positive talk at the start of the year for the Warriors. I guess a couple of heavy defeats to start the year. Not the ideal start, but still some promising signs despite some of those big losses.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it was always going to be difficult for us with the lack of experience we've got coming up against, sides that have got players there that have played, in excess of probably 20 or 30 first-grade games. As I said earlier, I think I've got one guy that's probably had up around 80, and the next one to him was one, and since then, 4 of my better players I haven't had since the Caboolture game. So, yeah, it's been a struggle, but, there's been a lot, they've improved every week. Even though the scoreboard doesn't show it, we have improved every week. There's no doubt about that. But I did tell you to get your money on at 101, didn't I?
Yeah, you absolutely did, Steve, and I can tell you, 1M Duncan, he does bet responsibly, but he likes tips like that. I know you went into the season with quite a number of players that would normally be in that first choice side on the bench with injuries, and even in that first game against Caboolture, there were a number of players that came off in the first half with injuries as well, which didn't do you any harm. I imagine the break's been a welcome one over Easter. How are your injury stocks looking at the moment?
Well, we've only got 2 out of the 5 back. Which will be their first game back this weekend. So, we're still, quite short, but we have picked up, 4 new players. Once again, they're fairly inexperienced. They've come from, second division Brisbane teams and clubs like that. Some haven't played for a couple of years, but unfortunately, that's the state of affairs at Bribie at the moment. No one wants to come to a club, that's getting beat every week, but the players I've got there, they've got their heads down, they're willing to learn, and that's the main thing.
You spoke about players not wanting to play at a club that are suffering these heavy defeats. As coach, Steve, how are you handling your current squad? Confidence would be low after suffering some of those defeats. That's where your job really comes to the fore. How are you going about keeping the confidence in those players you've got there at the moment?
Look, it's been difficult for me as well because, every time I've coached or I've played, I've usually made the finals, been in the top 4, so it's been difficult for me as well. But for the players, so it's just a matter of, talking to them, keep them positive and point out the positive things that they're doing well week in, week out, rather than the bad things. Like, you've got to touch on, the bad things or the inexperience that's leading them in to do bad things. But, you concentrate more on the positives. And on Tuesday night, we've had the best training session we've probably had for the whole year. It was nice and sleek, and one drop ball in the amount of time we trained for was sensational.
Absolutely. Now, when we were out there calling the game, that first game against Caboolture, Steve, we were very impressed with the likes of Danny Deans in there at halfback. You talked him up in the pre-season, and he certainly didn't disappoint, even coming back on after he suffered what looked like a pretty serious injury, and threw himself into tackles and really provided some spark. And I saw that he found the try line a couple of times for you guys a couple of weeks ago. How's he developing as a player? Is he really starting to develop well into the side?
Oh, look, Danny's quite inexperienced as well, and he's quite young, but he is moving forward. That's the main thing. Unfortunately, I just think Danny's been a bit stifled at halfback. I put him there due to lack of a halfback, but he's been a bit stifled there. So the last game I threw him at a hooker, and he had quite an impact on the game pretty much straight away. But I'm still struggling with halfbacks. We did have Morgan Adams came back to us for one game. But unfortunately, Morgan decided that Bribie wasn't the place for him. Obviously, didn't like getting beat, and decided that he'd pull the pin. So I'm still back to having no halfbacks. Unfortunately, at this stage, it's Danny's got to be put in there. But Danny's a great player. It's just a matter of giving him the room to actually show his wares.
That's a real shame about Morgan Adams, one of the best kicking games in the Sunshine Coast and Gympie Rugby League. It would have been a real coup to have picked him up, but that is a shame. Now you head to Noosa on Sunday, and Noosa, of course, were a powerhouse throughout the mid-2000s. Probably not the same team they were through that time. And I think they've suffered similarly to you with a lot of injuries and work commitments, but always a tough road trip up to Porritt Park.
Oh, look, no doubt about it. But, I've been impressed with Noosa. I've watched Noosa a couple of times now, and, the first time I saw them when they trialled up at Maroochydore, before the Indigenous game, and they were fantastic. They're very well drilled. They're extremely fit, and sides like that just keep coming. That's where I hope to be, sort of in that area where, the skill level's, not right up there, but you're extremely fit and you just keep coming, so you graft out a win rather than, getting flogged, put it that way.
Steve, the voice of Moreton Bay Rugby League, the Big D at the station here, has been out and watched a little bit of the Warragles under-18s run around the park, and there are not too many better judges of rugby league than Big D, and he likes what he sees with the under-18s there. Obviously, your role at the club is something that's going to be ongoing from just this season. This is just the start of the rebuilding period for the Warragles. How do you make it, or what do you make of the under-18s there? There seems to be some really good players and some really positive signs coming out of them.
Oh, they're absolutely a fantastic side, and they couldn't have a better mentor coach with than Danny Dawes there. And I mean, these young guys have developed tremendously over the past 6 to 8 weeks, and they're going very well. But I won't use them in first grade at this time. There are guys there that have played, a bit of first grade last year in particular. Due to need, but I want them to develop more as under 18s rather than throwing them in the first grade to get us out of trouble. But there's some fantastic players there. Ryan Thomas is absolutely magnificent, a big, long, lanky front rower there, with Jarman Lloyd. There's some great players there. There's no doubt about it. You'll hear a lot of them about them. Joel Bonney, the halfback, fantastic. I think you'll see a lot of them in the first grade rugby league in the future, provided they can keep their heads down and their backsides up.
Yeah, they certainly do have a future, that a lot of members of that team. Steve, we better let you go. I know you're busy this morning. We thank you for joining us on
SportsFeva,
and we wish you the best of luck against the Noosa Pirates on Sunday.
No worries. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Steve.
Steve Brown, coach of the Bribie Island Warragles, still remaining positive despite some heavy defeats to start the season.
Yeah, and it was always going to be an uphill road for the Warragles, even with a full fit list. And they were, as Steve said, 5 players short of that full list come round 1, and they lost 2 or 3 players in that opening game as well. So it's made a tough job even tougher for the Warragles, but they're hanging in there. I think they found their first points of the season a couple of weeks ago, as I said, they're going to take a little bit of time to gel. They really will, but look for them in the second half of the season. I definitely think they're going to be able to pinch a few wins.
Yeah, I think they might be able to string a few together. I think the big things for them that I've noticed in the games that I've seen is their fitness, and that'll come as the season progresses, and just completing their sets. They're turning over too much cheap ball in their own territory, which just makes it too hard to compete against Caboolture and the better sides. If you can at least complete your sets, you mightn't do a lot with them, but you're not giving that cheap ball away, and you at least make the other teams really work hard for their points. You still mightn't win, but it'll definitely minimise the damage. So good luck to the Warragles this weekend. I really like Steve Brown as a coach. He's got a real positive attitude. So I think they can still string a few games together, and I'm not writing off me hundreds yet.
Not at all.
Yeah,
very quickly too, Matty. Caboolture take on Nambour this week away from home, and they had a big win against Maroochydore before the Easter break at the very brand spanking new Snake Pit down there. Lovely field they've got to play on for this season, and the Snakes keep on rolling. So we'll see if we can do it. Or they can do it again against Nambour.
They slide the Snakes.
They do.
They don't roll. No wheels. It's time for a quick song. We'll be back to talk to Trad McLean from the Brisbane Broncos. 27 minutes past 8 here on 101.5, and as Broncos fans we'll hope to be singing this one after Friday night as the Broncos take on the Raiders. And joining us on the line is Brisbane Broncos media man Trad McLean. Good morning to you.
G'day guys, how you going?
Very well, thank you, Trad. Now we're looking forward to this Friday night clash, the Brisbane Broncos versus the Canberra Raiders, and it's been a really good start to the year for the Bronx. Only dropped that one game against the Cowboys, but have to be on the game taking on the Raiders, who have found a bit of form in recent weeks.
Yeah, I actually watched them play against the Warriors last week, and they were very good. We know they're a monster pack, and obviously with Terry Campuzzi at the back of that, that's probably going to be the key for us. We're just going to have to hold them there and do what we've been doing lately, which is just grind a game out.
Now, Trud, unfortunately, you will be doing it without Ben Teo. For those who didn't know, he missed getting off that charge completely, but the Broncos did successfully downgrade it for him to miss 2 weeks. Obviously, not the ideal outcome you guys were looking for there at the judiciary, but not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to look at it, the glass half empty or full. We were relatively confident we could get him right off it, but in the end, they made that decision, but we did argue for and Harvey's time from 4 weeks to 2 weeks. And look, if you think about it, it was worth going to the judiciary, because if we'd have taken the early guilty plea to start with, he would have got 3 weeks. So we probably saved him a week for the exercise.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well in the end. Now, we always like to get an update on a couple of our stars from the Moreton Bay region, a couple of Bribie Island boys in particular, Matty Gillette and Jack Reed. Of course, Jack got a double last weekend, 2 tries in about 3 minutes, and Matty Gillette has been in great form in recent weeks as well.
Yeah, Rudy, it was probably a bit careless. It was probably a chance to get his hat-trick after he had 2 very early. Couldn't get across the stripe again, but he's been going good, Jack, as usual. He's carried on from a super first season last year, and look, Matt Gillette's been in super form. He's been a bit kamikaze, and he's come off the wrong time a couple of times, but I think he's going great. And look, I know there are some serious considerations for him for the test against New Zealand next week, so everyone up there, keep your fingers crossed, because I know they're thinking about him.
I think Matty's still got to be spewing that he was denied that field goal the other week against the Tigers as well. I was cheering from home going, come on, there was a field goal there. But just you said he's been seriously considered for that test team, Chad. Is that for a bench spot, or do you think he's been thrown into that starting side considerations?
I think he'd be a bench spot. I suppose you've got to realise that there are a few blokes who played in that Australian tour last year in the back row who are out. So Corey Parker's only just come back. Tony Williams, the big Manly second row, is out. He played last year, so I suppose there's a spot there. But the thing about Gillo, as we know, is he provides great cover. He can play back row, front row, but also at a pinch he can slot him in the centres or even a 5'8", as he played in the preliminary final for us last year. So I think that helps his case. It's going to be touch and go, but I'd be really pleased for him if he got a run.
It'd be an amazing honour for the Bribie Island Junior. Now, a couple of fringe players that training with the Broncos. They come back and play for the mighty Redcliffe Dolphins, been in some pretty good form. Dave Harler's back after a couple of an injury to start the year, played the last couple of games for the Redcliffe Dolphins. Dane Gagai been in good form for the Finns, as has Nick Sliney and Aaron Whitchurch, and Capewell also tore South to shreds. Now, what are their chances of maybe picking up a spot in that Broncos 17 in the next coming weeks, and as we lead into that representative period?
Yeah, that's probably the key. I'm pretty sure we've got 2 games this year to play in Origin without our Origin players. So that's when those guys will get a real chance. A bloke like Dave Haller's never far away, because he's just had that foot injury this year that hurt him. Otherwise, he was a real chance to be in our 17 at the start of the year. So, look, I think all those guys will come into consideration depending who we lose to Origin. And, look, it's just great to see the Dolphins bounce back to form last week after a disappointing loss, because they're one of our affiliate clubs, and we need those blokes, especially through that middle part of the year.
Yeah, absolutely, and they were in fine form, particularly Luke Capewell. Now, before we let you go, Trad, we'd just love an update on Jaral Yao. Of course, had that serious broken leg a couple of weeks ago in Perth. What's the latest on Jaral?
Yeah, he's still in hospital. I believe he's still awaiting surgery. They've had to make sure that that the wound, because obviously he had a compound fracture, that the wound is clean and right, because they've got to go back in to fix the fracture. I know that there is no concern at all about about fixing the fracture. The doctor's not worried about that. They just want to make sure that everything is right and perfect to go, so when they do it, there's no complications. So it's really just a matter of look, there's no time to worry about, because he's obviously not going to play this year, but I'm sure he'll be right and back for the pre-season. Fantastic news.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Trad, and we look forward to seeing the mighty Brisbane Broncos do battle with the Green Machine, the Canberra Raiders, tomorrow night at Suncorp Stadium.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Trad. Swampy Trad McLean from the Brisbane Broncos, and the Broncos trying to make it 6 wins for the year.
Yeah, rolling on very well at the moment, aren't they? And I'll tell you what, I was putting the finishing touches on my fantasy team last Friday afternoon, and I nearly dropped Jack. I nearly did. The mouse was hovering over the cut key, and I tell you what, I thought, no, Jack, I'll give you another run, if only because you're a Bribie Island boy. And look, he proved me wrong, scored 2 tries in that game, and did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
so well done to Jack.
Fantastic effort from Jack Reed. He's never say die attitude. Grabbed him those couple of tries. Fantastic effort from Jack, and that'll lead us in, I guess, to our Queensland Cup talk, and we'll first talk, we'll go head up the coast. Sunshine Coast Seagulls coming off a big win versus the Redcliffe Dolphins, where the Channel 9 game of the week come up against, I guess, the other team that's fairly close to the region, the North Devils, and Devils have been struggling for form, hadn't registered a win, they'd had one draw against their name, but unfortunately for the Sunny Coast Seagulls, Devils found plenty of form on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was 42-18, I think, was the score. It was a bit of a blowout there in the end. And it's funny things about the Sunny Coast. You think they perhaps really fired up for the Dolphins and really just were out there with seeing red and ready to take it up to them, and perhaps didn't have that same sort of energy against North.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Swamp. I think they were that fired up for the Dolphins clash. I think it was a letdown coming into that Norths game, and they weren't the same team. That was a disappointing performance by but I'm sure they'll bounce back in their next game. Now, of course, the other game we'll talk about, the Redcliffe Dolphins, Sunday afternoon at Dolphin Oval. First, we've seen the Colts put on 50 points in a big win. Now, when the Colts scored 50 points in the first game of the afternoon there, Sunday afternoon at Dolphin Oval, you would have thought they'd be the lowest scoring team on the weekend, but unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but they were. The Fox Cup team come out and scored 56 points, and then the Queensland Cup team put on 70, Swamp. How about that?
It was absolutely extraordinary efforts. I was very sorry that I missed it. I unfortunately had to stay at home, but I couldn't follow the tweets fast enough. There was more than a point a minute for the Dolphins in that, or I think for the whole game, up until right at the end. And look, they obviously had a few demons to put to bed. It's quite clear, I think the players weren't happy with their performance against the Sunshine Coast, and anyone who questioned them during the week, they came out and answered it with absolute thrashing.
Anyone that wants to have a look at the highlights game, head along to the Redcliffe Dolphins Facebook page or the Redcliffe Dolphins site and click on the story of the game report there, and there's some highlights. Have a look at Luke Capewell playing halfback. He was in everything in that second half. That was one of the best performances in a red and white jersey I've seen for some time. I know they're probably playing a rattled side after they'd put on so many points early, but Capewell from halfback was impressive. And have a look at the last try the Dolphins scored. Capewell chip and chase, found Joe Bond in support, who then kicked ahead for Liam Georgetown, who just appeared from nowhere to score his hat-trick, and 34 points for Liam Georgetown. What an amazing effort.
Yeah, wonderful honour there from the club captain to pick up that many points, and good to see Joey Bond performing really well. That's, of course, was his comeback from injury that game, picked up 2 tries. And, Matty, you were there. What did you make of Dave Harley? You talked about him before. He was in pretty good form. He was a bit disappointing against the Seagulls, but hadn't had a lot of match fitness. Did he really step up his game?
Yeah, look, it was one of those games that probably your front rowers didn't stand out. It was the backs that were in everything. But Harlan made some really good breaks, found himself in space a couple of times, and really worked on his involvement, which I was impressed with. Scored one of his trademark tries where he gets the inside ball from the dummy half and burrows over from close to the line, the cannonball, I think they call it. And it was very impressive performance. Although I'd still like to see him in a real tight game when you need that go forward to see Dave really dig in and have a tough game. This is one of those games where the front rowers could think they were a bit of a 5'8" there, throwing some wild balls, but was impressive. And just on Joey Bond, he's I think our good friend of the show, Rupert McCall, has described him as the Redcliffe Dolphins' own Ben Barber, and he scored a length of the field try, very Ben Barber like on the weekend. So it was great to be a Finn on the weekend. Plenty of highlights to watch, and the draw does go for a fair while. The replays do go for a fair while. So,
and rightly so, with that many tries they've got to now. Of course, the Dolphins is a split round in the Q Cup this week. The Dolphins have the week off before heading up to take on the Capras up in Rockhampton there, and they've got 2 road trips coming up. They've got the Capras in a fortnight's time, and then the big one in the Wynnum Manly Seagulls out at Cougarai the week after. So I can't wait for that. And I had a quick word to their coach, John Dixon, during the week, and he's expecting a few of those players that we talked about about to get called up to the Broncos side the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But the good news is that there's so many players coming back that were injured in the first half of the season, and so many players standing up, like Dave Fermita in the Fogs A grade side, that are just banging on the door for selection. So a lot of depth there that'll hopefully really carry the Dolphins well through this representative period, where they also get affected as much as the Broncos do.
Yep, actually, it's a real flow-on effect, those State of Origin periods. So we look forward to seeing some of those players in action. Let's hope Wynnum are still undefeated by the time we get to take them on, so we can knock them off their perch.
It's going to be an absolute cracker match down there. I can't wait.
Looking forward to it. Now, it's 22 minutes to 9. We've got our Over the Moon segment coming up. So for your chance to win a $50 Caboolture Sports Club voucher from our sponsors, Caboolture Sports Club, give us a call, 5495-1015, and register your tips. And we'll play a quick song. This one of your favourites, I hear. One Direction. You're a One Direction fan? Song?
Huge. Massive.
Yep. Let them play then. 19 to 9. Swampy bumped away to One Direction there. Big fan. Who's your favourite? Harry?
Harry, yep. Harry.
Oh, please don't pretend you don't know what we're talking about, Swamp. You are kidding me. Now it's Hey Little Diddle, the cat and the fiddle. Shane jumped over the moon, or the cow. Here he is. What's going on?
Oh, mate, we're on fire now. Almost 8 out of 8 this week. I was let down by a couple of softies. But,
yeah, six out of 8. A fantastic performance, but guess what?
I got beat.
You could only draw, and a draw is not good enough. You haven't you've done another 50 for the poor old Caboolture Sports Club.
No, I'm Blackpool. You know that, don't you? I got a wanted sign on the front door.
I know.
They won't let me in.
Mooney, Sally was very brave and tipped the mighty Cronulla Sharkies with a little bit of advice from Big D, I think, on that. And of course, they pipped the Dragons, and that was the one that brought you back to level terms.
Absolutely. How could anyone take the Sharkies? I couldn't believe it. And Dragons, they're out of form, mate. They are really struggling.
And we've got Matty Rafton from the Caboolture Sports Club as our next guest, so he'll probably be pretty fired up.
He's going to cut me up for sure, but he's going to give it to me.
He's had to sell his car to prop up the poor old sports club, poor old Matty. But we'll talk to him soon. We'll get your tips for this week. First game is St George Dragons and the Newcastle Knights.
Mate, I keep struggling. The Dragons are a good side out of form. I just can't believe they're going to go down again. I'm going to take the Dragons against Newcastle. I think Newcastle were average against an average Eels side last week, and I know Dragons were awful against, which I didn't think that great a Cronulla side, but, mate, I think the Dragons have got to get it together sooner or later. I think this is a week for the Dragons. Dragons
to beat old coach Wayne Bennett's Newcastle. The other Friday night game is the Brisbane Broncos and the Canberra Raiders, and you wanted to pot the Broncos early in the year, but they've done you a couple of favours the last couple of weeks, Mooney.
Mate, I'm going to stick with the Broncos. I think they're in good form. I think they're a great young side. I really felt they'd struggled without Lockyer this year. I thought they'd be finding their feet for half the season, but mate, they're firing, and I'm going to stick with the Broncos this week. I think they are a good tip this week.
We know you're a New South Wales man, Mooney. What do you think about Peter Wallace wearing the number 7 for the State of Origin?
Mate, I think he's playing good. I think he's good enough to do it. I know there's always a lot of other stuff down there about Pearce and all that, but mate, I think Wallace is playing good footy at the moment. He's doing a great job there at the Broncos, and I think he deserves another chance. He had us down a few years ago, but he was played with a really underperforming forward pack. It gave him no support, so mate, I'd like to see him have a run.
You don't get any extra points, Mooney, if he does make the State of Origin team. Now, the other game, Melbourne Storm and the Canterbury Bulldogs. Melbourne Storm still undefeated in season 2012.
Mate, this is probably a week they're going to go down, but I'm not brave enough to back against them. I'm sticking with them. I think they're absolutely red hot at the moment.
Playing some very good football at the moment. Now, the Sydney Roosters take on the North Queensland Cowboys.
It's a battle of the losers, isn't it? Which way do you go here? I think I'm only going to stick with Roosters because it's a home game, mate. North Queensland seem to be playing better when they're away from home at the moment, but I think Roosters might be a bit strong down there, mate, for them and home dirt. So.
Bit hard on the Roosters. They're 4 wins, 2 losses. I don't know if we can call them losers, but anyway, that's you, Mooney. That's you. You're a tough marker.
They're really not.
Now, Manly take on the poor old Gold Coast Titans.
Yeah, that was how true is that. I just can't see the Gold Coast getting out of this year, mate. I think they're going to struggle. I think the only chance they've got to win is when they play Parramatta. I think that's the best chance to win a game.
Won't that be a great game?
What? The school kids? Awful. Both teams are out of form. They're awful. So, mate, I'm going to go with the Sea Eagles. I just think last year's premiers are going to be too strong for them.
Chalk out the Sea Eagles, who have found some form last week. Now, here's a team out of form. At last year's grand finalists, the New Zealand Warriors take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs.
Mate, the only thing that's waiting here, I think it's going to be a great game, is Warriors lost 2 on a trot. They haven't looked good, but they're travelling back over across the ditch. I'm going to go Warriors. I know Rabbits have been informed. They've won a couple, but I'm going to go against them this week and go for the Warriors at home.
The New Zealand Warriors. Now the Sharks, in a purple patch of form, take on your boys, the Parramatta Eels.
Mate, if anyone tips Parramatta again this year, they've got about rocks in their head. I'm going with the Sharks. They're playing good footy.
Good to see you solid with your team in the tough times too, Mooney. And the Penny Panthers take on the West Tigers.
Mate, I think West are playing reasonable football for part of the game and playing ordinary football for the rest. I think with Farah back, and I think the serve they got last week, I think they're going to knock Panthers off at home. I think this is the only game I've gone for an away win. I reckon West will do it up there at the foot of the mountains.
The Tigers to get their second win of the year. Okay, that's your tips locked in there. We got one of the best tipsters going around the Moreton Bay region, has rang up this week. Tracy is her name. She's a very, very good tipster. That's all we can tell you. Swamp, what's Tracy gone for this week?
There is 3 games of different this week. Tracy likes the Knights over the Dragons from Mooney. She also likes the Broncos to get over the Raiders, and she thinks the Roosters are going to have the goods against the Cowboys. So 3 games of difference.
And all early, so you'll know your fate early in the round, Mooney.
Well, mate, how can you say Roosters? I took the Roosters too, so there you go.
Oh, no, sorry. Tracy likes the Cowboys over the Roosters. Reading it around the wrong way.
Mate,
sorry.
Jeez, can you get some good support in there?
It's amateur hour, this segment, isn't it? Mooney and Swampy, dear idea. I'm just doing my best to try and entertain, but you two joke. No, hang on, no. Swamp does a good job. Now, before we let you go, Mooney, Bribey Island this weekend, heading up to Pirate Park.
Mate, it'll be tough up there for them, a home game for Noosa, and but I believe Bribey trained awesomely well on Tuesday night. Be interesting to see how they go tonight.
Yeah, we had Coach Steve Brown on early in the show, and he said that was a ripper session, their best all year.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard that from everyone that was there, and got the report back. And mate, as I said the other week, and said in the paper that they're a young side and an old side combination. The older players have only played C grade and park football, haven't been at this level, and they're going to take, I think, near on half a year to settle into the speed and of the game and the pace of the game. And they're getting better each week, even though the scores don't reflect it. And I think you'll find very shortly that there'll be a lot of reversal, and maybe this week they'll get a lot closer.
Fingers crossed for the mighty Warrigals. Mooney, thanks for your time again this morning, and geez, I'm not sure who'll register a win first. Will it be, well, the Titans have already won a game, so will it be Mooney or the Titans that win a round first? I'll be interested to see.
Absolutely.
I hope you got more money than the Titans, though, Mooney. Otherwise, you are in strife.
Mate, I'm in big trouble.
Talk to you next week, Mooney.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
Worst tipster in Australia.
Didn't do too bad last week.
Don't give him any credit.
No, you've got to give him that. 6 from 8's a pretty good effort, but Sally had the goods as well, and that's a bit of an expert.
We've gone for 7 weeks, he hasn't won a round.
Yeah, but 6 of 8, he's improving. He's beaten his previous record. He was sitting at 4 there as good as it got up until then, but he's hit some form. He's warming into the season, I think. Warming in.
We'll see how we go. Time for a quick song and back to talk some golf. Skags, it's over. It's 9 to 9 here on 101.5. Time to talk some more golf, some local golf this time, Swamp.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the line, we've got Matt Rafton from the Caboolture Sports Club, and they're club's putting together a fantastic weekend of golf coming up. Good morning to you, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Matt, and good morning, Peter. Nice to be on the radio this morning.
Absolutely, mate. Now, I know you're a golf man. We'll get to the sports club thing coming up. I know you're a big golf man yourself. What did you make of the Masters late last week and early this week?
Absolute great finish. I wasn't able to catch the last round live, but watched a few replays, and yeah, what an exciting finish and a great shot out of the trees there.
It's a wonderful tournament. Now, of course, I'm sure there's going to be some miracle shots attempted like that on the upcoming Caboolture Sports Club Members Day at Pacific Harbour. Matt, tell us all about it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there will be. It's basically it's the first time we've put together a members golf day like this, and just designed to take our members out and give them a chance to play over at the beautiful Pacific Harbour over on Bribie Island next Sunday. So we put together a whole package. Basically, members are paying $65 for the ticket, which is less than your green fees in the cart is over there normally, and that includes your bus over from Caboolture Sports Club and back. We've got a lunch pack for all players once you get over to Pacific Harbour. 18 holes with a motorised buggy, and also a bit of a brunch before we head off here at Caboolture Sports Club as well.
It's one of the toughest courses I rate that I played over there at Pacific Harbour. I dare say you'd recommend that members who aren't experienced golfers bring a few spare balls in the bag?
Yes, I think it is well worth bringing a few extra balls, but luckily next Sunday we'll be playing a two-person Ambrose, so for the golfers that aren't on the lower handicaps, you can still get out there with a partner and enjoy a day. Hopefully you both don't hit a bad shot on the same hole. And of course, despite its difficulty, it is one of the most beautiful golf courses going around over there on Bribie Island, Pacific Harbour. It's a wonderful 18 holes of golf. Well known, of course, Matt, and I know you've tackled this hole a couple of times, the par 3 8th, which is the longest par 3 in the Southern Hemisphere. It's a wonderful hole. How are you going to attack it on the day? Have you given it any consideration yet? Yeah, well, I fortunately had a bit of a practice round out there a couple of weeks ago, and luckily that day the wind was behind us, so it was playing about a 5 or a 6 iron. But I know when the wind hits you, you can be quite often hitting your driver off the tee as well. So it's a spectacular hole, bunkers all the way up the right, and water, so you don't want to be hitting a slice. But you know, it's a fantastic hole and a great challenge out there. But if you do get around, and you can enjoy the course as well without being too much of a challenge, particularly in an Ambrose sort of format.
Absolutely, and it's one of those holes that any golfer needs to get out there and play, just to say that you've played it and you've experienced it, and you can share in the stories of why with everybody else. Now, tell us, how can people sign up for the day? How can they get in touch?
Yep, well, we've got tickets on sale right now, up until mid next week, so you can purchase your tickets either online at www.cabsports.com.au and just follow links from the homepage, or you can come into the club and buy your tickets as well from our member services area in the foyer. So they're $65 for members for tickets, $85 for non-members. So, and we're encouraging people of all levels of golf, and if you don't have an AGU handicap, that's fine. You can still come along. We'll give all of our non-AGU handicappers a basic handicap, so they can still come out and enjoy a good day out.
Absolutely. And Matt, I'm not sure that we have the date. They just give us the date and the times again.
Yep, so it's next Sunday, the 22nd of April, and the brunch will be at Caboolture Sports Club here from 10 a.m. till 11 a.m. And then we head off on the bus over to Bribie, and it's a 12:15 shotgun start over at Bribie.
Sounds like an absolutely fantastic afternoon. I can't recommend the course enough, and certainly a two-person Ambrose is a really good way to head around the course and have a good time. Matt, thanks very much for your time this morning, and good luck next Sunday.
Thanks very much. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, Matt.
Matt Rafton from the Caboolture Sports Club station sponsor there. Sponsor will be a good day out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of we're absolutely got an embarrassment of riches of golf courses in the Moreton Bay region here, and Pacific Harbour is up there with the best, and it's a really wonderful course. And speaking of golf over on Bribie Island, we've got a very prestigious tournament being played at the Bribie Island Golf Club at the moment, the Australian Boys Amateur Championship, which is as big as it gets for junior golfers in Australia. Really big tournament over there, and such previous winners as Jason Day, Adam Scott, Stuart Appleby, so some really big names to take out that tournament. That's being played or started yesterday. Second round is today and wraps up tomorrow. So a really big day over there, and kudos to the Bribie Island Golf Club as well for getting the nod to host that event. It's a really big tournament. Good to see the Moreton Bay region hosting events and tournaments of that calibre in here. Just speaks to the wonderful sporting history and facilities that we do have.
Yeah, that's a fantastic result for Bribie Island. So. Very good news.
And definitely Bribie Island locals, get out there and have a look, because you could be looking 5, 6, 7 years time watching one of these guys go around at the Australian Open or even something like the Masters.
It'll be a story to tell, won't you? So I'll see anyone who's because I know I still claim a few. See Matty Gillette plays a 16-year-old for Bribie. I'll tell everyone that. So that's playing rugby league, of course, not playing golf at Bribie Island, but still you still can claim them. Now full time's about to approach here, Swamp. Now Just quickly, Australia snuck home in the test this morning. Well done for the Aussies.
Wonderful declaration by Michael Clark there. Declared about 150 or so runs behind and, managed to eke out the win. Wonderful stuff.
And probably cost Ryan Harris a century, though, how he was batting old Rhino.
Yeah, he did, and great to see the Queenslander do some big stuff there. First half century there, and I've been telling people for ages that Ryan Harris can bat, and no one's believed me because he hasn't got that half century yet.
I agree, and Stevie Gray from the top. Stevie Gray from Queensland Cricket will tell you, like, the Queensland bought him as an all-rounder.
Yep.
As a genuine all-rounder. He can bat, Ryan Harris. He just hasn't had the opportunities. Got slotted down the order, but can hit and very fast between the wickets.
Yeah, absolutely. No, really, really good stuff from the Aussies there. And look, it'll be interesting to see that the pitchers aren't serving up much, so they've really got to try and eke out these wins, and wonderful stuff there for them to get the first victory.
Now, of course, we said the Rick Dolphins got a weekend off this weekend, so I've got a free weekend, which is great. Might try and catch some Sunshine Coast and Gympie Rugby League. Anything else happening in local sport before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. Big shout out to all of our local swimmers here from the Australian Course Swimming Club. They're down at Chandler all of this week until Saturday for the Australian Age National Championships. Now, this is, of course, where all of our junior swimmers go along to compete and see who is the top swimmer in their age group. We think we've got over 25 swimmers from the Moreton Bay region taking in Pine Rivers and Redcliffe, as well as about 9 or 10 from Burpengara here at Australian Cruel competing at those events. Massive, over 1,600 junior swimmers there, and plenty of stars of the future. And just in early results, I've spoken on the show before about the wonderful Taylor McKeown, our breaststroke champion to be, and she's picked up 2 gold medals already in the first 2 days of competition, and had qualified fastest for the 200 breaststroke to be swum in the final there. So she's already got 2 golds, of course, following on from that wonderful bronze at the Open Nationals. So well done to all the swimmers there. Just to get there to compete is a wonderful effort, and good luck for all the ones that have still got races left to go.
Yes, best of luck from SportsFeva, and it's good if we can give you a mention on SportsFeva, because the famous SportsFeva bump is back after the SportsFeva Bubba Watson bump. Try and say that a few times, a quick time. So, it's back though. We were worried about it. It had a what did we say? There was some curse we come up with for that it didn't work.
I'll tell you what, though, it's had form in recent weeks, even though we didn't like it. We had Mitch Bucket on the show, of course. The Sunshine Coast Seagulls had a blinder, and they took out the win. And then following week, Bubba Watson stormed from nowhere to take the Masters. So
if you're a young sports star out there and just need a kick along, give us a call. We'll put you there, and magical things happen.
They do.
On SportsFeva Bump. That's the show. Thanks again for all our guests this morning. Steve Brown from the Bribie Island Warracles, Trad McLean from the Brisbane Broncos, Matty Rafton from the Caboolture Sports Club, and the worst tipster in Australia, Shane Moon.